On the right bank of the Elbe River near Pardubice, you'll find one of the oldest stud farms in the world. The national stud in Kladruby nad Labem. For more than 400 years, it has been fulfilling a constant mission, breeding ceremonial kladruber horses for hitching to carriages of the highest social elites. These are powerful horses with a lively eye, a high neck, characteristic convex head, and cadenced, spacious gait. Kladruber horses represent one of the oldest breeds in the world and the oldest original Czech breed. The Kladruber carries the blood of its old Spanish ancestors, which were brought to Kladruby nad Labem in the 16th century by Maximilian II, the firstborn son of Ferdinand I, the King of Bohemia and the Holy Roman Emperor. Maximilian provided the basis for breeding the so-called Gallicarrossier, a carriage horse for representative service at royal courts. Later, an old Italian horse was also used to procreate this breed. However, the connection between Kladruby nad Labem and these horses goes even further. The very name Kladruby, derived from the words meaning to cut down trees, recalls the times of the first lumberjacks who cut riparian forests in these regions. It is presumed that these horses were used for the hard work associated with towing logs. At the turn of the 15th and 16th centuries, the Prinstein family acquired the local land and founded a horse enclosure on the land of today's national stud. In accordance with the medieval tradition, they bred horses in the enclosure in a semi-wild way. King Ferdinand I visited William of Prinstein in 1539, and he liked the local manor very much for its numerous forests, exemplary farms, and excellent horse breeding facilities. The visit contributed to Ferdinand's decision to purchase the manor when Jaroslav of Prinstein fell into serious financial trouble. The story of horse breeding in Kladruby nad Labem was thus under the baton of the Habsburg family for several centuries. An important milestone was the year 1579, when Emperor Rudolf II promoted the local horse enclosure to the court imperial stud and appointed the first administrator, Rudolf of Breitenbach. At the time, the Kladruber horses were bred in various color variants, but from the 18th century onward only in two, gray and black. Both the grays and the blacks were bred for ceremonial purposes of the royal court. The blacks were mainly used by high church dignitaries. The journey of the only original Czech breed was sometimes difficult. We now move on to the story that ends in the castle stud in Slatninany. After the establishment of the Czechoslovak Republic in 1918, the original Kladruber breed, being a symbol of the monarchy and the church, was in danger. It was decided that the black variant of the Kladruber horse would no longer be bred. But this man, Professor František Bílek, the father of Czech hippology, did not accept that. At the end of the 1930s, he collected the few remaining black Kladrubers with the intention of continuing pure breeding in Průhonice, near Prague. However, the number of horses was too small and quite old, so it was not possible to continue the pure breeding. So, František Bílek decided on a very courageous breeding step in 1941, to restore the black variant of the Kladruber. At the end of World War II, the stables in Průhonice near Prague no longer provided sufficient capacity, and it was necessary to find a new home for the kladruber. The horses were moved to the castle stables in Slatniny near Chrudím in 1945. It is here the blacks are still bred today. The Slatniny stud is part of the national stud in Kladruby nad Labem. It originated from stables for racehorses and horses for par-force hunting, which together with the adjacent castle and estate belong to the Augsburg family. While the old Kladruber blacks found their place in the stud farm at Slatniny, the breeding of the greys continued in Kladruby nad Labem. The heart of the stud in Kladruby nad Labem consists of the main stables, the castle, and church. The stables represent a perfectly arranged classical set of buildings, consisting of breeding stallion stables, stables for breeding mares, as well as stables for young horses in training, foaling units, riding halls, and other buildings. The Imperial Castle is located in close proximity to the main stables. From the main courtyard of the stud farm, there is a straight linden alley, more than 3 kilometers long, which terminates at the main entrance to the Františův Dvor, a foaling unit where young horses are housed from weaning at the age of 6 months to 3 years. Thanks to its uniqueness and exceptional preservation, the stud in Kladruby nad Labem gained the status of National Cultural Monument in 2002, including the basic herd of gray Kladruber horses. The whole Kladruby site is a unique, perfectly balanced cultural landscape composed of meadows, pastures, ancient alleys, forests, blind Elbe arms, irrigation streams, and moderate, sensitively composed buildings. The long-standing combination of landscape and breeding of the Kladruber horses creates unmistakable scenery. A landscape for breeding and training of ceremonial carriage horses in Kladruby nad Labem. It received the highest award in 2019, entry to the UNESCO World Heritage List. This landscape is the only preserved and still serving its original purpose landscape in the world. For several centuries, it was purposely adapted to the breeding and training of draught horses, which were bred there with a clear breeding intention and exclusively for carriage service on festive occasions for the members of the royal house. In addition to its material heritage, the intangible heritage in the form of the original stud regime, including traditional breeding and training of Kladruber horses, is also preserved in the stud farm. The Kladruby nad Labem stud farm underwent extensive restoration from 2014 to 2015, restoring its magnificent early 19th century classic appearance. 17 historical buildings were restored. New sightseeing tours and expositions were created, and the entire site was opened up to the public for the first time in its history. The National Stud in Kladruby nad Labem offers several sightseeing tours. The most attractive of these is the tour of the stables, which takes visitors from the training stables for young horses to the breeding stallion stable. Kladruby nad Labem houses about 250 greys. A similar number of blacks are bred in Slatniny, where somewhere about 80 foals are born in the national stud each year. It is a great surprise to visitors that gray foals are born dark brown or black and lighten to white over the years. Kladruber horse still serves its original purpose for which it was bred. Selected Kladrubers set off from their native town of Kladrubinadlabem each year to Denmark and Sweden to perform their royal service. The National Stud established cooperation with the Danish royal court in 2014. Queen Margaret II sets off on festive tours of Copenhagen in a golden carriage drawn by 6 greys from Kladruby. Approximately 15 Kladrubers, whose selection was based on strict criteria, are housed in the heart of Copenhagen, in the premises of the Christiansborg Palace. The Swedish Royal Mounted Guard has also been using Kladrubers since 2004, ridden by musicians, namely trumpeters. Currently, there are 8 Kladruber horses in Stockholm, where a pure grey, elegant horse of large frame is required. One can often see the Kladrubers at various festivities at Prague Castle in the Czech Republic. It has many other uses in addition to its traditional role as a ceremonial carriage horse. They are also used by the police in Pardubice, Ostrava, and Prague. Thanks to its calm nature, it is perfectly suited for recreational riding and hippotherapy. They are also excellent for classical dressage, and especially for racing teams. The ability of Kladruber's numerous achievements of the National Stud, not only in domestic races, but also in the European or World Championships, proves the breed's need for speed. The second tour, the Carriage House, the Harness House, and the Museum, offers visitors close-up views of a number of historical carriages. The first president of Czechoslovakia, Tomáš Garrigue Masaryk, used the elegant Mylord carriage with superior equipment, produced by Josef Hřipa Tuchlovice in 1914. Together with the Kladruby horses, both for the purposes of presidential protocol and his own purposes in Prague and Lani. The expositions of the National Stud include a Berlina-type carriage made for Ferdinand I of Austria. However, the Golden Archbishop's carriage, a ceremonial carriage weighing 2 tons, is really the star of the show. When visiting the Harness House, you will be astonished by the life-size model of the Imperial 8 in hand. The harnessing of horses in earlier times was governed by established rules, and the number of horses that anyone was allowed to use was based on social status. Only the emperor could use 8 horses. The castle tour leads visitors to the premises where important members of the Habsburg family stayed during their visits to the stud farm. The former imperial rooms are from the reign of Franz Josef I of Austria. He and his wife, Empress Elizabeth of Austria, better known as Sisi, visited the stud several times and stayed at the castle. During their stays in Kladrubinadlabem, they participated in parforce hunts in the Pardubice region. The castle is adjacent to the Church of St. Wenceslas and Leopold, which was consecrated in the year 1860. The fourth exposition is located in a hunting lodge, a timbered Baroque gameskeeper's house where the forest manager lived. Today, it operates, among other things, as a saddle workshop where saddle products for horse breeding and trainings are made. And finally, without a guide, you can climb the Lookout Tower, a 22-meter-high former water tower which offers a view of Kladruby Stud and the adjacent landscape from an almost bird's-eye view. Thousands of visitors come to the National Stud every year to have a break from the modern hustle and bustle for a while and to be surrounded by a place where order and tradition have reigned for over half a millennium. Day after day, year after year, the National Stud continues its mission, the breeding of Kladruber horses and the preservation of its home, so generations to come can happily rest their eyes on this noble animal and be proud of our national treasure, which the Kladruber horse and the national stud in Kladruby nad Labem undoubtedly